Most of us remember the feeling of getting our license and driving alone for the first time and how exciting that was. Equally as exciting, if not more so, is the feeling of getting your first car. Although most of us might want something brand spanking new like that shiny JL that's on the lot, we're likely going to end up with something a little less expensive. And if you're fortunate enough, you might even get something cool handed down to you. Such was the case for 16-year-old Josh here. His dad was kind enough to hand him down this really cool 6-speed manual JK Sport. And Josh brought it to us for some help in creating a cool setup that's going to serve him well day to day and serve as the jumping off point for some future modifications. Now, it's no secret that Jeep parts are not cheap, and it feels a little more expensive when you're a 16-year-old kid working on a budget. However, Josh was able to save up about $4,500 to put towards modifications, and he came to us for some help in picking some cool things out. So everything you are about to see on his Jeep, everything that we did, is available right now for under that $4,500 budget. And given what we did to it and how it turned out at the end, I think he's got some pretty cool stuff and a pretty cool setup here. So with that, let's get into it and we'll show you what we did. Now, you might be surprised that we started out with the soft top. I mean, this is supposed to be modifications, right? Well, those of you familiar with Jeeps in general or soft tops overall know that the top is usually one of the first things to show its age. And the original top that was on this JK when it arrived here was not what it used to be. The fabric was faded, the windows were fogged, the frame was getting clunky. Generally, it was in the beginning stages of falling apart. Josh also told us that after a recent downpour, he came out to discover about 2 inches of water on the inside. And though the Jeep was dry when it showed up here at our shop, the smell was still present. Now, that's all normal stuff that just happens with age and use, but we had to do something about it if we wanted to up the street appeal and make it better for Josh to drive, and also to help keep him dry. So I chose the Best Top Super Top NX Soft Top to replace that original one. Now, one of Josh's main requests for this build was to keep some of the classic elements that make a Jeep, while still giving it a modern update. And since Best Top has been the exclusive manufacturer of OEM Jeep soft tops since 1986, I felt that this top fit the bill with that square back look, the factory type functionality, and a reasonable price tag. Now, this is a complete top, so not only does it get new windows and new fabric, but you also get a complete new frame system and all of the hardware, which makes for an easy installation. It's also going to make for smooth day-to-day operation with the Sunrider and convertible features, so when Josh does want to drop the top or take it off, it'll be easy for him to do. Now, this one also has tinted windows, which are the DOT approved 30%. So this is gonna match the factory setup and provide some nice insulation from the sun that a soft top so desperately needs. Now, the tint on the old windows was yellowed and faded. It was looking pretty terrible. So this new one gives you a nice refreshed look, and it plays into that whole stealthy, aggressive feel that Josh was after. Now, although the price for the Best Top is higher than some of its competitors, you do get what you pay for here, as it has that OEM look and function that you expect. Plus, it should have a nice long lifespan, which is exactly what this Jeep needs. Now, our next mod probably won't be a surprise either, and that's that we had to go and ditch those factory JK headlights. Now, there are 2 problems with these stock headlights. The first is that they're just not great when it comes to visibility, especially when you're driving at night. And if you've driven a JK with the factory halogens, you know what I mean when I say that they're basically a pair of candlesticks. And for a new driver, visibility is really important, and it ties directly into safety. We want Josh to be safe, so we definitely needed to make an improvement in his lighting output. And second, the stock headlights are just super plain. They don't really have much style to them. Now, we had to keep in mind, of course, that Josh had a budget to stick to, but he still wanted to add that modern and stylish touch while keeping some of the factory fundamentals, again, stuff that makes a Jeep look like a Jeep. Now, what fit perfectly into that trifecta of affordability, style, and a little bit of a modern update are these Raxium Axial Series LED headlights. Now, these were an incredibly easy choice to make thanks to that cool style and the price tag that comes in right around $200. So these are stylish, they're affordable, and especially considering all you get here, they're a really good buy for the money. Now, as you can see, this set has sort of a blacked out inner housing, and you've got clear lenses over top. So it's gonna add that stealthy, more aggressive image that Josh was looking for while still offering full transparency. So he won't have to worry about sacrificing lighting output for the look. Now, the design here is also super clean, so it doesn't deviate too far from stock. It keeps that chrome type of reflector on the inside, again with those black inner housings, but it takes the tech to a whole new level. These have a split design, so the low beam is here at the top, with the high beam down here at the bottom, and they're both going to boast incredibly bright LEDs. And what's great about an LED, in addition to the longevity that they offer, is that brightness. They also create a much more uniform and consistent beam pattern as compared to the factory halogens, so that's going to make for greatly improved visibility. So these headlights are going to offer Josh much more confidence when he's driving at night, in addition to that modern appearance, all thanks to the bright white 5000K color temperature that they put out. And the headlights alone really do a lot to clean up the look of the front end here. So they've offered a pretty big facelift to the front of the Jeep, especially as compared to those yellowish hue that the factory lights had developed over the years. This is one of those subtle yet incredibly worthwhile mods that really makes a difference in the driving experience though. Our next one, however, not so subtle, and it takes the goal of aggressive to a whole new level. What better way to separate your build from your dad's than to add an exhaust to it? And no build is complete without one, right? Now, we didn't want to get too crazy here because as much as all of us enthusiasts love hearing the exhaust when you're stomping on the accelerator and rowing through the gears, I'm not sure Josh's neighbors would feel the same way. Now, we also wanted to make sure that this was comfortable and tolerable for him since he's going to be driving this Jeep every day. Now, that middle ground made Josh's JK a great fit for an axleback. And since it's not a full catback system, that also helped keep the price down, and that's important when you're working on a budget. But since we also want it to look cool, the Rough Country dual outlet performance axleback exhaust was the one to choose. Now, this exhaust is right in the middle when it comes to sound. We give it a 3 out of 5 on our loudness meter, and that is with 1 being completely stock and 5 being Wake the Neighbors loud. For reference, here is a clip of what it sounds like. Now this is going to bring a mild increase in volume with a nice deep tone that's not annoying or raspy. It adds to that aggressive feel we've been shooting for, kind of exactly what Josh wanted. And it's also not going to create a lot of drone inside the cabin when you're driving along. So it's a great setup for a daily driven rig like this one. Now what's really cool about this system, especially for Josh's build here, are these large 4-inch dual tips. The tips are going to be resilient here as well, as they're constructed from T304 stainless steel. Now the same holds true for the rest of the exhaust as well. This is all 409 stainless steel construction, and you've got this nice kind of glossy powder coated black layer on top. It's going to prevent everything from rusting and getting corroded underneath. Now that exhaust is certainly going to need the extra insurance of that powder coating, considering that this Jeep lives in the Northeast, where we see a lot of salt in the winters. And should Josh decide that he wants to take this thing off-road, and he likes doing that, wants to hit some trails, I want his exhaust to be ready for some mud and maybe some water too. That powder coat, without a doubt, will add that sharp aesthetic as compared to the plain looking factory system. And the tips here are sure to turn some heads. Now an added bonus is the small increase in performance thanks to the freer flowing design. So Josh should expect a little bit of boost in power and maybe some MPG, which is a win as well. One aspect of this Jeep that really needed some love was the suspension. Now Josh was working with completely factory stock suspension, and it had over 100,000 miles on it. So it's safe to say it's a little bit tired, and it really doesn't have the greatest performance or ride quality, whether we're talking about on-road or off-road situations. And while Josh doesn't plan on conquering Moab or doing anything super intense with his JK, he wanted to make it capable in case he did want to go camping or really anywhere off of the beaten path. But also, spoiler alert, he wanted to fit some beefier wheels and tires, and more to come on that front. But since Josh didn't need something crazy for performance, and we are again working on a budget like any 16-year-old is, I chose the Skyjacker 2-inch value suspension with the Black Max shocks. Now this is a great middle ground that's going to meet all the needs of this build. It's a mild 2-inch lift, so it's more than enough to get that more aggressive type of look without being too unrealistic about what this Jeep is actually going to do. Now these 2 inches in the front and rear here are going to give Josh the extra ground clearance and keep it pretty easy to get in and out of. So it's going to be easy to access on a daily basis. And of course, it's also going to get us to the end goal of fitting these larger wheels and tires like I mentioned. I promise We'll get to that shortly. Now this setup is also just a really good middle ground that brings the benefits of that additional height without completely throwing off your suspension angles. So there's no need to worry about upgrading drive shafts, steering components, or really anything else that isn't already included in the kit. And that keeps it well within budget while maintaining the ride quality that's necessary for a daily driven rig. The kit itself consists of heavy-duty spacers for the front and rear, upgraded shocks, and bump stop extensions too. Now what's great about this kit specifically is that you have a couple of different shock options depending on what you're gonna do. And while all are an improvement over stock, we went for a more factory style replacement shock because Josh didn't need all the bells and whistles of the really high performance mono tubes. Now, so again, we landed right in the middle here with the Black Max shocks. Now these are going to have a twin tube construction and a more fluid feel to them while still being more responsive than stock. Now these shocks aren't going to be worked incredibly hard like in off-road, high-speed, it's like a Baja running type of situation, but being able to handle that will make for a long-lasting setup that's going to ride comfortably for years to come. And of course, no build is complete without a new set of wheels and tires. It's one of the best and easiest ways to personalize your rig, and it was also Josh's biggest ask. He wanted to take his JK to the next level and get that aggressive look, get away from the completely stock setup that was on there. Plus, after adding 2 inches of lift to the Jeep, there was no way that we were gonna keep the stock wheels and tires on there. They just wouldn't give this the look that Josh was after. So starting with the wheels, you can see immediately that stealthy, aggressive vibe that Josh was looking for with the ProComp Vertigo matte graphite wheels in a 17 by 9 inch size. ProComp is a great brand for affordable wheels, and they offer a ton of different styles to suit pretty much any enthusiast taste. These Vertigos in particular bring that aggressive appeal with the matte graphite detailing in the inner ring and switching it up from the average all black look. So it's gonna give Josh's JK that little extra splash of individuality. Now the simulated beadlock on the outside is also where you get that touch of black. It's gonna contrast nicely with the matte gray inside and the silver paint of the JK. And again, it reinforces that rugged, aggressive feel that we were looking for. Now, Josh's one big thing that he really wanted for this build was a beefier look for the wheels and tires. So with that in mind, we wanted a suitable wheel size too. And 17 inches is a good midpoint for a sidewall to wheel ratio. As you can see, we don't need all of the sidewall here since these tires aren't gonna get drastically aired down to, say, crawl over boulders. But thinner sidewalls also aren't going to fit the theme. The stance is what adds the wow factor to any wheel and tire setup, no matter which one you choose. And the right offset is going to make a huge difference in how the Jeep is going to look and feel, whether it's sitting still or on the move. Now to get the look that Josh was itching for, we wanted a little bit of poke without going too super wide. A nice aggressive stance that isn't too over the top. And these wheels set it up perfectly with a -6mm offset, paired with that 9-inch overall width. Now the tires are also a big portion of the look and the performance. So of course we want the look, but we also need to maintain a comfortable ride because again, this is Josh's daily driver, it's his only vehicle. So it's gonna see a lot of street time. So that meant that an all-terrain was gonna be the way to go. Now this one in particular that we chose was the Kenda Cleaver AT2, and these are 33 by 11 inches. So the tires have a pretty beefy tread pattern for an all-terrain, so it absolutely nails the look that Josh wanted without forcing him to make other modifications. The Cleaver AT2 also doesn't compromise on performance. These are gonna remain comfortable on the road day to day, and they aren't gonna make a ton of road noise. They're also gonna perform well in inclement weather. They have the 3 snow peak rating on here, and they have an AB tread pattern, which essentially means they've got a spaced outer block here on the outside of the tire with a tighter center contact patch to keep that road noise down. This has also got a pretty thick sidewall on it, high spine density, and a ton of biting edges on the outside for looser terrain. So even if Josh is not out scaling obstacles and is just hitting a dirt road, the tires are going to respond well while maintaining a lot of rigidity and stability. What's great too is that these also offer the utmost confidence with the 3-peak mountain snowflake stamp of approval for extreme weather, which we don't see too often here in the Northeast. But it does mean that these are going to do well in snow and ice, and like the headlights, may not be the most exciting thing, but having that extra assurance as a new driver is much more beneficial than not. Now the sizing here is crucial as well. 33 by 11s are another sweet spot for the JK, as they give you the beefier and bigger appearance without going over the top. That extra width and height here were the biggest ask for Josh, and he really wanted that beefy appearance. Plus, sticking with 33s as we did here isn't going to throw things off, and Josh can enjoy this setup for a while without having to do other modifications. That is, until he decides to go down the rabbit hole and maybe jack this thing up to the sky, put some big wheels and tires on it. And if he does that, well, he knows who to call. Now we all know how it goes, no build is ever truly complete, and really this is just the start for Josh and his JK. But given the budget he was working with, I think we were able to make a pretty cool transformation and turn this into a really neat rig that's gonna work well for him on a day-to-day basis. And it's gonna stand out in the crowd too. Now Josh did tell us that he's planning on saving up for some new bumpers and fenders, and I really think that's just gonna take this thing to the next level. But let us know in the comments what you think. Let us know how it turned out, what your first mod was, and maybe leave a couple of suggestions for what Josh should save up for next. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. We've got plenty more product videos and content stuff coming your way soon, so make sure you're also subscribed and you hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, for all things Jeep, be sure to keep it right here at extremeterrain.com.